Hey y'all, I want to talk to you today about Christopher Daniels, aka Rakem Balogun, and why he's in prison after being arrested by the FBI. Now, it would seem that he is the first black identity extremist that the FBI has targeted, and they did that. They started watching him because he showed up at a protest in Austin, Texas. It was a protest against police brutality, and it was also a rally for Second Amendment rights and open carry. I don't really like open carry, but whatever. You do you, we can disagree on stuff like that. He was out there. Some people at this protest were yelling very anti-law enforcement things like oink oink bang bang, the only good pig is a dead pig, things like that. This showed up on InfoWars. That's right, Alex Jones. And the FBI decided to take that and run with it. They watched him for the next 2 years. They then went and contacted people that he had been in touch with in Detroit, in South Carolina. This man is in Dallas, Texas. And they're going all over the country, getting in touch with people who have been in contact with him because they think he's a terrorist. When asked during the hearing if Special Agent Aaron Keegley specifically said that there was no evidence whatsoever that he had encouraged anybody to harm law enforcement or that he had any intention of harming anybody in law enforcement, they simply started watching him for 2 years because he showed up in an InfoWars thing. And then they went and checked his Facebook and found out that he had said things like the police and the Dallas police shooting deserved what they got. Now, I don't agree with that. I vehemently disagree with it. But being anti-law enforcement isn't a crime. Conspiring to harm somebody is a crime. Actually harming somebody is a crime. Vocally being anti-anything is not a crime. We have the First Amendment. And yet the FBI decided that they were going to watch this guy for 2 years. And when nothing really turned up, they figured, we know what we can get him for. He's a pro-gun guy. And apparently when he was in Tennessee, I think it was 10 years ago, he got in a domestic dispute with his girlfriend at the time and got in a little bit of trouble over it. And they arrested him because he had guns in Texas. Now, we're not even sure if this is a legitimate arrest. His lawyers are saying that the charges that he got in Tennessee don't match up with what the federal law says is domestic abuse or domestic violence. Because according to federal law, if you have domestic violence, blah, 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 you're not supposed to have a gun. Even though, a lot of our mass shootings are carried out by people who have prior records of domestic violence and they don't seem to stop any of them. They caught him, raided his house, took him off to prison, and even though the agent who was leading the investigation said that there was no evidence that he encouraged anybody to harm law enforcement or that he himself was ever planning on harming law enforcement, he also said, well, the stuff on his Facebook page that he's posting is very anti-law enforcement and could incite violence. They also decided that they couldn't release him until the trial happened because he would be too much of a danger to the community. Then why did it take you 2 years to arrest him if he was that much of a danger? To me, this reeks of finding people who are anti-law enforcement for any reason, such as Black Lives Matter, who isn't actually anti-law enforcement, they're just anti-police brutality. And some of their members may be anti-law enforcement, but hey, I may not agree with them on that, but, you know, statistically speaking, I'm a lot less likely to get shot by police than they are, so... And being anti-law enforcement is not against the law. And yet here we have the FBI following people around, going around the country, and contacting everybody he's been in touch with because he showed up at an anti-police brutality protest where they were pretty anti-law enforcement in general. I'm sorry, but this is disgusting. And it really makes you think about the Black Identity Extremism paper that the FBI published not too long ago, where they said that these people were terrorists because of perceived racism and injustice in America. Perceived? Have you not looked at the numbers? This isn't perceived. Quite frankly, this is a real problem that we have in America. And instead of going after people who were protesting the problem and speaking out against it, however much I may disagree with their words, why don't you actually fix the problem instead of arresting people for their political views?